This is where the Supra tried to kill me. Good afternoon, fine people of the internet and all of our Supra followers. I apologise for not posting in a while. It's been about a month, mostly due to all this crazy coronavirus stuff. A lot of the events that we'd normally be covering, we can't do at the moment, and it's also the reason why I now look like I'm a homeless bum, because I've never actually bothered trying to grow a beard, but I haven't bothered shaving in a while because I haven't been leaving the house really. I just go to and from work, which is the only thing I'm allowed to do at the moment due to the Australian lockdown laws. We did already do a video about how the Supra performed on the track initially, but we've done a few small tweaks. Those tweaks involving a new set of brake pads, new brake fluid, mostly because our pedal was getting terribly spongy at our last track day. And the other thing is we have a nice new set of Advan GT wheels coupled with some Michelin Pilot Sport cups. Now, you will have remembered it from my first video about the track days, is that the most disappointing part about this car, I thought, was the Pilot Super Sports. It seemed to be a fairly subpar choice of tyre, and we were, although the car was performing quite well on the day, it was a very sticky track that day, but the car was getting very twitchy. So we figured that the biggest change would come by upgrading the tyres. So what we've done is our best lap times from having the Super Sports on it, and we're going to compare them against our best lap times with the Pilot Cup 2. So today we're getting the brake pads changed to some Circo prototype compound, new brake fluid, wheel alignment done because it hasn't had wheel alignment since it was new. And we're going to be changing these Michelin Pilot Super Sports to some Michelin Pilot Cup 2s. So that hopefully will make a nice comparison to our first outing, and we'll give you some feedback on how these tyres compare back to back. Alright, so we're going to check the weights between the factory wheels and tyre combination and these Advan GTs and the Pilot Sport Cup 2s. So, Pilot Sport Cup 2s and Advan GT wheels, 20 kilo. Stock wheel and tyre, much difference? Yeah. So, nice looking wheel tyre. They're a forged wheel as well, 23 kilos. I wonder if that's out of the tyre or the wheel or a combination. Probably a bit of both. There you go. So there's, what, 3 kilos per corner, well, for the rears at least, saved. Let's see what the fronts get. And this is the fronts. So Pilot Sport Cup 2, Advan GT wheel, and we're 9.5 kilo. 19.5 kilo. And stock ones. What are we at? So this is the 255 Pilot Super Sport on a stock wheel, and 21 kilos. So what, 2.5 kilos on the front, different, and 3 on the back. Also, unsprung weight difference there is 5 kilos for the front and 6 for the back total. So there's 11 kilos of difference between the two. Brembo. There we go, the new Circos and the old Brembo pads. This is the S88 compound, and these are the test one. And we're going to leave these little vibration dampers on there because they don't seem to press out of the factory pads. All they do is they stop vibrations and noise, I guess. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They look better.
Yeah, these better.
How'd the old colour look?
Yeah, it looked alright. It's about 2,000 k's older, I think.
So?
It's about 2,000 k's older.
There you go, rolling on the new wheels. And bed the brakes in. And off to go get a wheel alignment now. No camber?
No, nothing in the front. I figured that. In the back there should be toe and camber, yeah, toe and camber in the rear, but yeah, the front you're gonna
So we'll need arms and
maybe coilovers, like depending. I haven't seen what the top
yeah, I don't know, yeah.
strut mounts, but I'll spec it up, see what it's like.
Yeah, we'll see what you can, like I don't know what an ideal track setup is. I don't really care about tyre longevity. It's more just I want to have grip.
Yep.
Cool.
Can do.
See what you can do and just
see what it's got for now, and then you can go from there.
Okay, cheers. Thank you.
Previous initial specs here.
Yeah.
So that's what they were. That's what they are now. Not much caster adjustment in the front.
Camber's nothing.
Yeah, camber. That was pretty good straight away. Yep. So yeah, we've just zeroed it out for track.
Okay.
Rear camber got as close to 2 as possible both sides, so that's where it was. So we just bumped it up a bit. And then the toe, it's just 1.1 a side, or 1.2 a side, sorry, from where it was as well. So
the factory was just a little bit not perfect, but there's not much adjustment.
Factory's
not
indicator
much
for the
adjustment.
camber.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the figure there. So when you do go aftermarket arms, adjustable ones, then we can actually go back to this originally and look at that and go, oh crap, yep, definitely a big jump, big adjustment in there.
Here we are at Queensland Raceway for our second go at the Supra on the track. This time we've got some Michelin Pilot Cup tyres, Cup 2s. As I said in the last video, the biggest letdown that we found on this car was the factory rubber just wasn't really holding up after a few laps. So interested to see how we go on these new tyres. Set them to 28 pound, I've been told 32 hot, so that got the car all set up ready to go. And we'll be out again shortly. This is just a practice day. So morning is practice, then in the afternoon we've got some different sprint sessions. So we should be able to do all 3 different layouts the same as we did last time. And that'll be the national, clubman and sprint circuit. So let's see, I mean it's a lot hotter today. I'm actually feeling a bit ill, it's so hot. It's sweaty, it's probably not exactly a fair comparison after the last one because it was a much cooler day. But with the new brake pads and the new rubber, hopefully we can set some better lap times. Themselves, they were an improvement. However, I did notice that because the track temps were very hot and the track was quite slippery, it was not as big of a difference as I was expecting going from a Super Sport to the Cup 2s. I was expecting to shave off 2+ seconds a lap. Now, one thing I did notice is the harder we were pushing, these Supras, they are not very easy to drive on the limit. They start to get really twitchy, probably due to the short wheelbase. So what I'd found is by having the grippier tyres on it, we still run the same size, so a 275/35/19 rear and a 255/35/19 front. Same size as what we had before, but after upgrading the tyres, I actually found that we were able to get some understeer, which is something that we weren't getting with the factory tyres. Now, my best guess from that is that because the front tyres were getting such a workout on turn 1 and turn 2 at Queensland Raceway, the front left was basically getting annihilated, and our tyre temps were going through the roof. So our front grip was down, our rear grip was up, and we started getting a bit of a ploughing sort of understeer occasionally when we were entering corners in spots that we previously on the factory tyres we weren't experiencing. So I'd say that if all things equal, if it was done on the same day, the 1.5 to 2.5 second lap improvement probably would have been possible, but with the conditions of the track that day, we were lucky to get even a second and a half faster lap times, but it was still a noticeable improvement, and absolutely huge thanks to GR Auto Garage for repairing the car. Massive thanks to Yokohama Advan for the hooking us up a deal on those wheels. They look freaking fantastic. Big thanks to Fulcrum for organising a wheel alignment, and of course thanks to Michelin for the Pilot Cup 2s. We did prove that these tyres do make a difference, so if you're trying to shave off a second and a bit, that's a lot of time on a track that only takes you around a minute to get around. Tyres, definitely an improvement. If it had been on the same day, it would have been a much bigger improvement than that. Now, on to the next part of this video. This is where the Supra tried to kill me. If you'd watched our version, like our initial video, you will have seen that the traction control and stability control does some strange things. Even when it was turned off, it kicked in a couple times and it had actually sent me off into the kitty litter. But that was nothing compared to what it tried to do to me on the most recent track day. It quite literally tried to put me into the wall. All the aids were off, all the nannies were off, all the auto lane assist braking, ESC, everything was off. The only safety precaution that was still left on was the ABS, which is something you can't disable without pulling a fuse. Coming into turn 1, I believe I have worked out what the problem is. Normally, if you're coming into a turn, if you trail brake, means you've got the brake on very slightly as you're turning in, and then you start to get back onto the accelerator. What I'd found was happening is if you kicked the back of the car out a very little bit, which on a hot day with a slippery track, that's likely to happen. What we were finding is we were coming to turn 1 at around 185 odd kilometers an hour, turn the steering wheel right, and then what was actually happening is that the rear end would step out, not unexpected, so the rear end would push out the left a little bit. If you were still slightly touching the brakes, trail braking, and then you went to correct the slide, the car went into an emergency mode, the hazard lights came on, the traction control overrode everything that I told it to do. It came back on momentarily, but just enough to completely f me up. So the traction control essentially seems to have gone, hey, it looks like you're about to lose control, let me fix this, and it made things 1,000 times worse. Now, if you watch this video on some decent headphones, probably won't be able to tell on a mobile phone, but you'll actually hear the moment that the ABS kicks in, and you'll hear this brrrr sound. Now listen out for that. That's the sound of the ABS and ESC braking the front wheels. The left, I assume it's the braking the two left wheels. I ended up nearly in the wall or on the grass, or in the wall or on the grass, and it could have been a hell of a lot worse. The fact that it won't let you turn it off, even though I had manually overwritten everything, I pressed, I held, I did everything that the instructions tell you to do to turn traction control off, and it ignored my instruction when it decided, it's tried to correct it, made things 1,000 times worse, and then it's realized that it couldn't correct it, and then it just stepped back out. And I am very lucky that I didn't put it into the wall, because obviously on a track you've got no insurance, and in the car is literally only a few months old. So that is something that I found to be a humongous letdown and a big issue. At least with things like the Toyota 86, you can disable the traction control and ESC and all those nannies by doing this whole pedal dance thing. But there doesn't seem to be a way to turn off the traction control 100% on this car, which, like I said, and as you can probably see, was a very, very dangerous situation. Now, the other thing that I was encountering is this car is totally stock. And if you can see here right now in front of me, you'll see I've got a lot of data logging going on. Now, this is a tablet that I bought, and it's plugged in via Bluetooth to the OBD. The main reason for that is every single time I was hitting the straight at Queensland Raceway, what was happening is that the car was basically going into kind of like a limp home mode. It was like 50% power. Now, on this, on the factory gauges, you do get the ability to bring up a menu for power and torque. Now, that power and torque graph normally goes up to 247 kilowatts and whatever Newton meters, but every time I'd be getting into, I think it was about 4th gear, I was finding that it was as if I was flat to the floor, but it wasn't letting me accelerate anymore. And then I looked at the power graph, and it was maxing out at 140 kilowatts. There were no warnings, there was no check engine light. This car is stock, it is not tuned, it doesn't have an exhaust, it has absolutely nothing that could be considered to be a modification in any way, shape or form. Yet, there we were with the car going into like a limp home mode. The only thing we can think of, and I'm not the only person this has happened to either, but it seems to be pretty much isolated to people that I've spoken to in Australia. The weather in Australia is typically a little bit warmer than usual. As you can see, I mean, today's not that bad. It's intake temp 29 degrees, so air temp 29 degrees, intake is at 51. I think that what was happening is at top speed, maybe there was insufficient airflow to either cool the transmission, cool the intake charge. At the time, I didn't have this, but now we're using it to log data. So next time we go out to the track, we'll use that to see what happened and what error codes, if any, are being thrown. I've only ever experienced it on the track, and what happened, I spoke to PWR Cooling Solutions in Australia. They said, try turning your aircon off. Now, normally on the track, I wouldn't normally run an aircon, but you know, when you're in a stock car, it's not normally a problem. Turned the aircon off, and it didn't recur at all during that day. That's the two issues that I've come up with after an extended track experience. But most certainly, tyres, brakes, brake fluid, the first modifications done to this car are absolutely, definitely worthwhile doing. But that's pretty much it from me for this. Sorry, it's mostly talking. Next time, what I'll do is we're going to show you, we've set this tablet up with Bluetooth it's actually probably one of the best things I've done to this car. You'll be starting to see a lot of modifications coming through for this car. You just wait for the next video. You'll be able to see some of the cool things that we're doing, and we will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. See yous.